can't really do exit planning without collaborating.
Exactly.
And there's a good way to collaborate and a not so good way to collaborate.
Right.
Which a not so good way to collaborate would be to try to have all the answers yourself.
Right.
Not return phone calls, not be willing to work with people. And unfortunately, there's some advisors out there that are like that. And there's other advisors who just aren't aware of the impact that it can have, on your own practice and your client, right?
Yeah.
So you're forging relationships with other advisors who could become referral sources. Mm-hmm. You're helping the owner achieve a better outcome.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Exactly
and
right.
and you're expanding your own horizons by being able to collaborate like that, because I always learn something.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Exit Is Now podcast, broadcasting live here from the Exit Planning Summit, hanging out with all types of different CEPAs, advisors, and partners inside of our EPI community. A big day here. We are celebrating the class of 2008, which they've completed now 15 full years of being a certified exit planning advisor. And I have my friend Steve with me, part of that class of 2008, part of that group that's celebrating 15 years. And it's also the class that my dad was in, so it's very certainly familiar to me. But when I'm sitting here, and thinking about what you and my dad and somebody like Sean Hutchinson have done over the last 15 years, it's actually quite impressive. I couldn't imagine. So if you rewind with me, all right? So welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me.
Rewind with me back to 2008, where you probably sat in Chicago?
Yeah, University of Chicago.
University of Chicago, Booth School of Business Gleacher Center.
Exactly.
And there was no methodology or process yet, right? You were really being taught out of the $10 trillion opportunity book, and my dad describes it as being taught like a lot of concepts and philosophy. So can you rewind 15 years when you're sitting in that CEPA class and tell me what that experience was like?
Oh, yeah, it was a student-style environment there.
Yeah.
And we were just, all in the room together, and Rich and Pete started, presenting, and they had a few other advisors that would come in and again, talk about the space of, financial planning, the business, but really it wasn't a package deal. It was kind of really spread out. And because at the time I was a CFP and also, selling businesses like I do today.
Yeah.
So I was, really familiar with, some of the concepts right off the bat, but it really wasn't as organized as it is today. Obviously, there wasn't a methodology, a process in place. And, I knew when I was selling businesses at that time, you had to do something better, for the business owner. Yeah. And back then, valuation really wasn't all that mainstream as far as trying to get a business owner to basically value their business. The only way that they would do it is just because of estate planning reasons, or they had to die or something like that. It was a forced IRS situation and all. Yeah. And so I can just see now that from that whole week when that was like when President Obama got elected, up in Chicago, he was having a celebration there and everything. Today is just changed. It's come full circle. Back in the day when I went home, after that 2008, I started doing my brochures and stuff, and then I started going out talking to everybody, and everybody thought I had like 5 heads. What are you talking about?
Right.
I don't need you. I'm the CPA. I'm the estate planning attorney. We don't need to collaborate. And so it really has come full circle now.
So back then, so you're saying is that the advisors were actually kind of all spread out, right? Like came in from a business side, the CPA came in from the CPA side, financial advisors came in. It was actually back in the day when you guys came, it was mostly business advisors, value growth guys, and CPAs that were a part. Now it's really obviously flipped.
Exactly.
But nonetheless, you came out of CEPA, and it was still kind of disjointed for you a little bit in terms of team building.
Totally.
Yeah.
It was totally disjointed, and it was very hard at that time to really get people to buy in for collaboration because
Yeah.
everybody still wanted their dollar for themselves,
Yeah.
and they weren't really trying to think what's best because from my CFP upbringing,
Right,
you approach the client as a fiduciary, and that's why I think a lot of these guys are, meaning the financial advisors, here that are coming, see it that way as well.
Yeah.
That we're really working for, the business owner, not, our own individual practices.
Exactly. You find that collaboration and team building is better than it's ever been?
Better than it's ever been.
Yeah.
Totally. And I
Good.
think the reason is because of EPI,
Yeah.
the Planning Institute. Yeah.
Well, at least we gave people a process, right? We gave maybe a set of core values and a process that shows kind of where we all play and then shows the value that we all bring at the individual, on our individual and kind of essential roles.
Well, I think now things have gotten more and more complicated from
Sure.
an advisor standpoint. So you got to stay in your space, or if you start venturing outside your space, you may get in trouble.
Well, that's true too, right? Particularly, right, with the financial advisors now and a lot of compliance, probably maybe even more so than it ever has been, right?
A lot of compliance, and then even selling businesses. It's very more complex today. There's more private equity firms out there than ever. You really got to understand who they are.
Yeah.
Are you talking to an independent sponsor? Are you talking to someone that actually has a fund, dry powder? It really makes a lot of difference of, spinning your wheels, or do you really need to sell this thing to a strategic, and how do you go about, talking to a, big strategic?
Do you remember like how you found EPI back then? Because we had, when you heard me on stage talk about this in 2008, there was only like 1 or 2 classes before your class. So there might have been like maybe 40 people that had the designation, like super early adopter of exit planning. I don't even know how you would have found us because you're in Atlanta, Georgia then?
I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, up in Alpharetta, my practice.
Yeah.
And at the time, I was still doing financial planning and exit planning and selling businesses.
Yeah.
And I think it was an email, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I think I got an email. And it might have been, maybe Rich or Pete, got a list, of something I was involved in, maybe from a business broker standpoint.
Or maybe from a conference that they attended or something.
Exactly. And when I saw it, I was like, this is it.
Yeah.
I said, this is right. This is kind of like pulling everything together because I've always said, exit planning is really financial planning.
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
From the big, picture standpoint.
It's just another asset inside of your financial portfolio for an owner.
So when it kind of spoke really good for me, based off of, where I was in my career at that time.
Yeah, that my dad also doesn't really recall how he fell in, but similar to you, a business guy, right? He was doing the value growth stuff and then representing companies for sale to third parties. Really felt, my dad always talks about something was missing for me. Like the whole financial planning thing was new to him. The whole personal planning he had really never investigated. And so he saw that three-legged stool approach that EPI had talked to and said, hey, I think I got to go do this. And then when you're talking about collaboration and teaming, remember my dad came out of like kind of corporate America.
Right.
So when you came in, you were already in the advisory space.
I was in the advisory
Dad was
space.
pretty new to it. Like 2006, I think, is when he launched his consulting company, taking that process and knowledge that he had in corporate world and trying to deliver it to small and middle market companies. So he was also coming for a kind of a national network of guys like you that focused on helping those small and middle market business owners, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, at the time, I was thinking, okay, how can I help that business owner make more money at the end?
Yeah.
And because at that time, private equity firms or businesses, they were only selling like 4 to 5 times then, or even 3.
Right.
3 to 5.
Times. Yeah, 3 to 5.
And when you look, back from 2008 to where we are today, I'm like, right now I have a deal of 8.5 times with a private equity group.
Yeah.
Things have just changed because, as we prepare our business owners better, the value is going up, and that's exactly what the value methodology is all about.
Yeah. So talk to me about then, fast forward 15 years, how have you seen, as somebody that's been very active too, right, have spoken, taught at EPI, launched and ran a chapter of EPI, pretty involved in the exit planning space. How have you seen that the space change over those 15 years?
I think it's changed in much more of an awareness.
Yeah.
and it's more of an acceptable awareness.
Yes. Yeah.
Just like I said before, people thought I had 5 heads. Even when I remember going into the chapter, starting the chapter in Atlanta, there was a great turnout, and we kept it going for a long time, and continual turnout. But there was a sensation for more knowledge of how to do things better. And I think as time went on, it became much more of a fiduciary play of how can we really help these owners really achieve, their lifelong dreams. Because I think really what has really spurred it is really the financial planning community.
Really? Okay.
Okay, because when you think about EPI, it's the, how you want to say it? It's the specialty place for business owners.
Yeah, sure.
The financial planning community doesn't have a specialty resource education space.
I see what you're saying. Yeah,
for financial planning.
Yes.
You got the estate planning people, you got the retirement people, you got the investment houses and all that. But really, when you look at who makes up the wealth in America, it's the business owners.
Exactly right.
Right? Because they've given away, the big corporations, you can't get really good stock options anymore. Yeah. Right? Back in the day, you could really, bank it.
Yeah, sure.
Now, if you really want to make wealth in America, it's a business owner. Do you want to work 40 hours a week for 40 years and accumulate your wealth, or do you want to, bust your backside, and put the time in, and things go well, and boom, you create a $5 million business or a $10 million business or a family business of $50 million.
Right.
And so that's where the wealth is coming from in America.
So where do you see, like I said on stage this morning, I think that it's going to be a super interesting next 10 years, right? Because all the baby boomers turn 60, the youngest baby boomers, I guess, turn 60 this year. So that's going to drive a lot of activity over the next 5 to 10. And then you have the next couple generations, the millennials and the Gen Xers, people in their 30s and 40s and 50s, that are going to either be buying or starting companies. And then I think they're going to be the boomerang exits, meaning they're going to buy a business or start a business, and 10 years or 15 years later sell it and then do it maybe 2 or 3 times. So what are your insights on where we're heading if you looked out 5 years from a profession and from business owners?
Oh, wow. I think the genie's out of the bottle now.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
I think, the baby boomers,
we
were the stopgap.
Yes.
We were the ones that are basically saying, we want to give it to our kids, or, we'll just not think about it. We'll liquidate, go on and do our stuff. We've kind of convinced them now. Well, really, I think the tech community. I think the technology community back in the day, when they started the VC of create something, sell something, create something, sell something, rolled over into planning, for baby boomers. It became a little bit more mainstream. So now, since we're doing this and we've been attacking baby boomers because they had the wealth, now you got to go downstream to all the new businesses that are being developed. Because I just talked to one. I just talked to another group of business owners that were, millennials, and actually, they were in the Uber startup, and they created a business. Okay.
Interesting.
And so now I'm talking to them about selling their business, and it's like they're all about exit planning. They go, what do we need to do? What's
they're already starting with the end in mind, right?
They're already starting with the end in mind. Perfectly said.
So I think that it's kind of an excellent opportunity to really learn about what it takes to actually produce that company, because we all need to surround ourselves with guys like you, people that can advise us on how to do that, how to align the 3 legs of the stool. So I think it's going to be more in your face than ever before. Like you said, would you say the genie's out of the bottle for sure? Genie's
out of the bottle. Everybody's starting to think now, like, okay, what's in it for me with this investment?
Yes.
People are looking at it not as a income to provide for my family, but more of a wealth creation.
Yeah. I think so. Last question, and we wrap down this particular segment of the show, is for a guy that has really helped pioneer and trailblaze a profession, becoming a SEPA when there was like 40 or 50 people. Now you see like 2,000 people become certified exit planning advisors in any given year, and you see about like 200 people in a SEPA class. So a lot of new SEPAs. The summit actually has become really a great next step for those getting certified to dive deeper and learn more. But at the same time, it's become a cool place for people that aren't necessarily certified yet to learn more and be exposed to gentlemen like you. But if you had a couple of pieces of advice for these 800 new SEPAs that we just certified through the first quarter, as a veteran guy, what are you thinking? What's on your mind?
Well, this is kind of how I don't think you understand business owners until you understand the P&L and the balance sheet. If you can't read a P&L and a balance sheet, I don't think you're going to connect well with the business owner.
Yeah, interesting.
I mean, that's just kind of, my way of identifying with the business owner, because once you start talking to them, they like to talk numbers, right?
Right.
And so I think because, being a CFP, they don't teach you that, in the College of Financial Planning or anywhere. And having the ability to do financial analysis or have a little bit of an understanding of it, I think that will accelerate you even more so, elevate your game far more than anything else that I've seen.
That is really good advice. My dad taught me the same thing, that you got to run the business by the numbers. Yeah. So as professional advisors from across all different professions, understanding more about the P&L and balance sheet is going to actually do you good along the way in your conversations with business owners. That's great advice.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Well, Steve, I appreciate you spending a few minutes with us here at the Exit Planning Summit.
My pleasure.
I told Steve I'm going to have him come into Cleveland so we can continue this a deeper dive conversation around the topics that we're discussing today. You guys stick with us, and we'll be right back.
Cornerstone Business Services are M&A advisors, bringing a highly successful, high-touch level of service of investment banking to the lower middle market. At Cornerstone, we don't just make deals. We craft personalized solutions with an expert team that has decades of experience in buy-side, sell-side valuation services. We understand the deeply emotional process of selling a founder or family-owned business, with first-time sellers who are likely embarking on what will become the largest financial transaction of their life. We're more than just investment bankers. Cornerstone is a trusted partner in helping business owners begin their next chapter. You only get one chance to sell your business. Cornerstone can help you finish strong.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Exit is Now podcast. Sitting here at the Exit Planning Summit with our friend Gordon Bell. So a longtime SEPA, was just inducted into the Exit Planning Circle of Excellence, which acts as the Exit Planning Hall of Fame. Longtime SEPA, dedicated to business owners in the community. Gordon, welcome to the show, man.
Oi, thank you. I remember I turned 59.
Yeah.
And I was the oldest guy in the class. I said, "What are you doing here?" I said, all my private equity guys and all that said, "You don't need that. You could teach it." I said, "I'm not too sure." Yeah. And then Pete Chrisman ended with, "We're here to help others.
Right.
We're here to look at the lifestyle. Oh, by the way, we have a business and we do the three-legged stool to help them." And all of a sudden I said, now I know why I'm here.
Right. Exactly.
14 years ago.
Yeah. You're working in your 15th right now.
Right. I was over a third graduating class, 17 in our class.
I know. Isn't it wild to think that back then? So even think about that. We were doing this with, so the other thing that we do here at the Exit Planning Summit is we celebrate those that have held their SEPA designation for a full 15 years. So we're always celebrating.
That was yesterday.
It was yesterday, right? So that was my dad's class of 2008, full 15. So they're working in the 16th.
DZ was he's one of, I work with about 12 SEPAs on a regular basis, and he was one of them.
Yeah. So, but think about that though. So if there's like, say, call it 20 for round numbers or in your class. So by the time you came around, that's 2, 4, 6, there's like 80 people.
Yeah.
That were all certified exit planning advisors. We have 800 people here at the
learnings.
Yeah. Isn't it wild? So from your perspective and being involved in the EPI community for so long, what are some things that have evolved and changed for you?
Well, I'd say what's happened. I was talking to Jenna and I was talking to Jocelyn and Paige the last few days.
Yeah.
And I said, I've been to all these summits except one, right? To scoop for a 50th anniversary of the Europe.
Yeah.
And I said, the quantity has gone up, but the quality's gone up and the inspiration's gone up.
Yeah.
And that is a cultural shift.
Yeah.
As opposed to how do you serve 800?
Yeah.
So there's a collaboration is better than I've ever seen before.
Yeah. 100%. I think that
there's a true, I think we've talked about it since you came through the SEPA program, but there's a true sense of community that you feel here.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So the other thing that came out this year that have been talking about throughout the summit is the 2023 National State of Owner Readiness Survey. And so 10 years ago, right, when you were involved, we did our first State of Owner Readiness Survey.
Yes.
And the results were kind of a bummer, right?
It's kind of like no one's prepared.
No one's prepared. And now what you've seen, because in part guys like you that have been educating a market, you see owners more educated than ever before. Their readiness levels up and their preparedness levels up. Do you see that in the marketplace as well?
No question. I just gave an article to Paige. I was down in Florida here, and my phone rang, and it said, "We finally found you." I said, "What do you mean? Who are you?" The editor of CEO magazine in London was commissioned to do a story on exit planning, which they'd never done. They said, could we interview you? I said, that's fine, So we're going to set you up with a journalist from Sweden. And so she interviewed me, and I just gave a copy of it to Paige. And I said, if you want to put this into SEPA files, she did a better job of explaining exit planning than I could.
Right.
And wait till you see the article.
Yeah.
She went to 300,000 CEOs.
Wow.
Around the world. And so that means the magazines are seeking us out as opposed to what's this exit thing?
Well, it's like the U.S. Senate thing that we did at the beginning of the year, right? So that we got the invite to go to the U.S. Senate from speaking at our Denver-based chapter because the governor's office there sponsored our State of Owner Readiness Survey locally to Colorado. It was actually a really cool opportunity. I got to speak alongside Governor Polis from Colorado. And apparently, Senator Shaheen from New Hampshire got word of that, and they had their policy advisors start following us, and they've been following, and then boom, kind of like what you're saying, here's are all these CEOs. Boom, now we're at the U.S. Senate floor.
Let me tell you how I take those studies and simplify it.
Please.
They say, well, I'm thinking about selling my company. Are you prepared? Well, yeah, I'm prepared. Tell me what you think that means.
Right.
By the way, 25-30% of companies sell, the rest don't. Oh, well, is that you go? No. A year after they sell, 75% of them are disappointed because they don't have a life plan. Oh, well, I'm too busy, But you know what? What if you die tonight? What if you become disabled, divorced, disrupted? Yep. Or, you know what? I don't want to do it anymore. You got a plan? You know what? Yeah, my son's going to take over.
Right.
You sure?
Yeah.
Have you talked to him?
Exactly.
Get into find the pain points.
Right.
But don't criticize them.
Yeah. And
all of a sudden you say, well, I'm part of this organization and we have a process, takes 3 to 6 months. As really the warm-ups. I don't get into the fancy trigger words.
Yeah. Well, talk to me about your book a little bit too, because you're a business growth guy, what we would call a value advisor, value growth consultant. But your book is really about planning for the next act or phases of your life. So talk to me about
the book. I wanted to write a different book, but God said, write this one. And I learned from private equity, it was about leadership, having a business plan that made sense, being a good steward of God's capital, and have growth things in place so that you could pass it on. Well, I found out that serving others, having a vision, building a culture, being committed, having a strategic plan was all in the Bible. But pulling that out of it, I went to the Purdue's and the Harvards, being whoop. I learned it by being a CEO in the trenches and finding out that the answers are somewhere else.
Exactly.
But then honoring a higher power to say, it ain't me.
Yeah.
And then going to EPI and saying, it's not me, it's us.
Right. Yeah, you've always been a community driver. You've always been more about us than the individual. So,
well, you try, and now and then the ego gets in the way. Because you know what? We think it's us.
Right.
But then our wives got to take care of us and go, bam, bam, bam.
So talk to me about the future. So again, you'll be celebrating, you're in your 15th year.
Going up 15 years. I just turned 76.
Yeah.
I went to a life-changing event.
Sure.
The doctors had to take care of it.
Yes.
But, that's behind me.
Yes.
What's
the future like in this for you in the profession?
In the profession.
I'm working this. I'm adding more and more SEPA specialists.
Yes.
I'm going to expand it. So I have 3 or 4 buy-side teams. I've got value enhancement. I just found a couple of valuation squads that are going to help me. So more collaboration.
Okay.
And more quarterbacking and passing the baton off.
Yeah.
In some cases, hey, just take the client.
Exactly.
And then we work out the proper economic arrangement.
Right. And what about business owners? What's the future there? Because you'll see a big evolution, right? From the point where you became a SEPA, where kind of no one's ready and no one's really aware, to the point we stand today, which clearly business owners are more aware and looks like they're more ready. But what's 10 years from now? Pretty fascinating market, I would assume.
Here's interesting. I've got my 70s and 80s, the guys and gals that I work with.
Yep.
But I can't tell you how many 40-somethings I work with.
I know.
You know what? They want exit planning. They want to know about their buy sells. They want to know about their wills. They are...
Makes it a hell of a lot easier of a market, right, when it's educated.
Well, because they're already thinking like...
And in mind.
They're not wedded to holding.
No, I was saying this, I think, on stage. They're going to be our boomerang exits, right? Where you're going to exit at 45, then you're going to exit again at 55, and you might have be in some little minority-owned company.
Life doesn't end at sale. It's just it's beginning again.
Right.
And look at me. I took a company public when I was 34.
Yeah.
Was that my end game?
Yeah.
Look at what I'm doing now at 76. I'm having more dang fun.
Yeah. Yeah, we have been having a lot of fun here at this summit, man. Well, how many summits have you came to? Do you think? How many summits have you came to?
All but the one I couldn't go to because of my 50th anniversary.
Your 50th anniversary.
We went over to Ireland and Scotland and celebrated.
So you've seen this event change quite a bit too.
The first one I went to, there was this guy at the pool. His name was Chris Snider. And I said, I'm Gord Fell. And and Tom Deans was our keynoter.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that we really got full circle?
Was number one.
Yeah.
And I was getting ready to write my book.
Yeah.
And I walked Tom out. I said, I need some advice. He said, Gord, I don't know who you are, but be bodacious. So, and then when I wrote the book, he was one of my coaches.
Absolutely. Right.
And he shut me down. It's all published. And I just got a copy of his 3rd book this morning that came out today.
Very cool. Well, Gord, I want to get you back into your day.
Hey.
And so I appreciate you hanging out for a segment of the Exit Is Now podcast.
I'd like to say something to you.
Sure.
Thank you for being a great servant leader of a great organization and giving it your all and challenging us to go to a higher level.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks for always being a great mentor to me and a great advisor to me and Dad. Thanks.
Right.
We'll be right back, everybody.
Are you a business owner seeking to unlock the true potential of your enterprise? Look no further than the 2nd edition of Christopher Snider's revolutionary book, Walking to Destiny: 11 Actions an Owner Must Take to Rapidly Grow Value and Unlock Wealth. In this updated edition, Snider presents proven strategies for maximizing your company's value and accelerating growth. Whether you're aiming to sell or simply want to ensure long-term success, this book offers a blueprint for building a thriving, self-sustaining business. Walking to Destiny isn't just another book, it's a game changer, backed by Snider's own experience as a successful business owner and as a SEPA. This book bridges the gap between business owners and advisors, guiding you towards financial freedom. But don't just take our word for it. Hear from those whose lives have been transformed by its insights. One satisfied reader raves, "The best guide for transitioning out of privately owned companies. I recommend it to all business owners and advisors." Another praises it on its focus for maximizing business value, calling it their, quote, principal tool for educating owners. Ready to take control of your business's destiny? Visit walkingtodestiny.com now and use code EXITISNOW to claim your free copy of Walking to Destiny: 11 Actions an Owner Must Take to Rapidly Grow Value and Unlock Wealth. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Make the moment perfect by seizing this opportunity today.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Exit Is Now podcast with me, your host, Scott Snider, hanging out with one of my favorite people and a good friend of mine, Justin Goodbread. What you've seen Justin here at the Exit Planning Summit do is be inducted into the Exit Planning Circle of Excellence, which is like the Exit Planning Hall of Fame. So how does that feel for you right now? Because you're kind of a fast tracker SEPA, right? You're probably the youngest SEPA that was inducted in terms of when you got your SEPA designation.
not only by that, but also by age. So it's pretty interesting to look at.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. No,
With a lot of our mentors, honestly, for me and you, looking across that that first inaugural class, a lot of people that have mentored us.
I know, it's pretty crazy. There's some smart cookies on that stage,
Yeah,
and so
really
to be part of that is very humbling.
Yeah.
Very humbling. And you know how I roll, man. It's like, wow, find the most successful people who's done it,
Right.
find the people who can teach you, hire them, let them coach you, do whatever it takes to do, and you can succeed.
Yeah. So, the big thing that we've been kind of talking about over the last 2 or 3 days of the summit is this 2023 National State of Owner Readiness Survey. Owners, again, more ready, more prepared, more educated. Is that how you feel your owners are as well? You feel that they're better than they were maybe 10 years ago?
Man, we came into the Exit Planning Institute back in 2017.
Right.
There was very little education out there. In fact, I remember I had done exit planning before joining the
Right.
the
Well, you had
Exit
your own
Planning
exit,
Institute.
too.
I had 3-4 exits at that
Exactly.
point myself. And the guy who actually invented the dollar bill on the Coke machine was my mentor in the islands of South Georgia. And he had taught me these concepts, but I never had the framework, right? I didn't have the methodology as we now describe it as.
Right.
And so seeing what's transpired since 2017 to present with so many thought leaders that are here at this conference right now, dude,
Yeah.
it is amazing. There's so much good information. There's also application. I was going to say education without application leads to stagnation, right?
Yep.
But not only do we have the education, but people are teaching us how do we apply this in our lives? How do we apply it in our business owners' lives? And we are changing the narrative nationally. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, in terms of, I guess that would have been, 6-7 years. You became a SEPA, you grew your practice, and maybe yesterday on stage you were actually talking about it as almost 3 brands, right? You had your advisory, your business advisory, your financial advisory, and then your marketing and content piece. And in the matter of 6 or 7 years, you were able to successfully sell that practice. Can you talk about that and what you're doing now?
Yeah, so we actually sold it in 48 months. Started from
pretty
scratch,
wild, huh?
48 months later, sold it for
Is that
8
because,
figures.
in part, not to interrupt, but is that in part because you also run like the value acceleration methodology, right? You're running as a business owner with value in mind?
Yeah, so what we learned is who is our number one client. I often say this when I teach people. The number one client we have is the person who's going to ultimately buy our company. It's not our customer. So I separate client and customers in that terminology, right? Oftentimes we say our clients are the people we had the honor and privilege to serve day in, day out. That's not what we're building our business for. Who we're building our business for is the person who's going to capitalize our exit at some time in the future. So I recognize in the financial world that there were a lot of advisors who needed what? They needed more customers. They did not know how to go out and get more customers or more accounts. So I built a series of companies that was solely intent on showing how to gain more customers, because I realized my client, the person who was going to capitalize me, wanted to know, hey, how can we bring more bodies to our advisors? How can we bring more qualified customers to our clientele?
Yep.
So whenever I had that mindset involved, I employed value acceleration methodology within the company, and it exploded. It exploded because of the concepts we utilized, but also is because I had decided. Decide means to cut away all other opportunities, right? All other choices. I had decided there's only one person I'm building this company for, and that is that person in the future is going to write a check. I didn't expect it to happen in 48 months for 8 figures.
Right.
No expectation on that one. But I knew I was building it for that firm of the future who was going to come in and say, hey, we want your methodology. We want your programs. We want your processes. We want this because we want to deploy this within our company so we can accelerate.
Yeah.
We would call it a strategic partner, a strategic buyout, right?
Yeah.
That's what I was building in that particular company.
I think it's you're like the living age demographic, where you're that. We were just talking within the last guest about these boomerang exits, right? Where, I mean, how many exits is that for you now? 4?
7.
7 exits. So 7 exits across his business career for a pretty young guy. So tell me what you're doing now. You're on to your next passion. So what's that look like?
Yeah, I noticed there's a void in the marketplace, and that is there's not an advisor who's been there, done that, who's teaching other financial advisors how to have that 8-figure exit, how they can double their net worth within a 3 to 5 year period. I know the methodologies. Not only do I know the methodologies, I've done 3 financial practices now, exited those for 6 figures, for 8 figures, and for 9 figures. So I know what the marketplace wants, but I also know the way the advisors think.
Right.
As a young guy coming up now, 20 years, receiving all the awards I've received nationally in the advisor space, I get advisors. I also know that we're a tenacious lot, but we're also kind of, we're very confident in our own abilities, and often we're our worst enemies.
Yep.
So we need somebody in that space who can disrupt, if you will, the advisor's thinking, challenge them and say, hey, you have an asset here, but your asset can grow can double in value in a 3 to 5 year period, just like those that we're coaching in the manufacturing space, or the retail space, or the service space.
Absolutely.
So, dude, I'm super excited about the coaching opportunity.
Yeah.
It's going to be group coaching. It's going to be for an entry point. We'll have video type structures. We'll have one-on-one coaching, and then I'll do some high-ticket coaching. Can't wait to just be bill fishing in Panama this year, Bahamas, with a group of 4 or 5 people, and we're walking through value acceleration methodology and driving maximum value.
So it's like retreaty style.
Oh, yeah, we're gonna have fun.
I love that. That's I'm not a financial advisor, but I might have to come tag along on one of these trips.
Yeah. I'm at the point. I say this, and it's not a beating my chest thing.
Right.
You know me.
Yeah.
I'm as humble as they come, but another $1 million is not going to do anything for me or Emily.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's not going to change our lives in any way financially. So, but what I do know is that I want to build an experiential life for my family and for myself.
Yes.
I spent the last 30 years in the trenches. There are pictures now when I look at my kids' lives. I don't remember being there, and I was there. I don't remember,
right?
Dude.
Yeah.
So it's like, I want to be able to invest as much of my skill set, talents back into others. But I want to do it on my terms, right?
Exactly.
I want to do it whenever I'm on the back of a boat somewhere, man, pulling in a blue marlin. I want to do it when I'm in the Rocky Mountains, spotting stalking elk with a group of people.
What's your next big trip?
Oh, man. So I'm headed to Florida for June, the month of June, going down to the Keys, our house
you
down
love
there.
going down there.
Yeah, we'll be out scuba diving and mahi fishing, wahoo. I got an advisor that 4 years ago, I began coaching him, and he just had his 8-figure exit. He's coming down, and we're going to do an interview, and we're going to talk about his journey. It's going to be fun.
So in closing here of our segment, as a Hall of Famer now, if you will, what is some advice for some of the new SEPAs that are coming through the program?
Wow, you could go 1,000 different directions with that. I would say the biggest thing that changed my life is, number one, coaching. I hired a coach. When I left SEPA program, I paid this guy $10,000 a month. I wasn't making more than $60,000 that year. I paid my coach twice as much as I was making, and it led the 8-figure exit. So have a coach. But number two, who do you want to serve? Right. Most people say anybody and everybody, or we think we have this avatar. The closer you can hone in on who that avatar is, the people that you like. Yeah. Now, you've heard me talk about the story when I closed my portfolio one time. I'm like, dude, I'm not working with you. I don't like you. And got him from the table and left him there in the office. I mean, I literally did that. Probably should have done it that way. But I am who I am. But you figure out who you want to work with. And when you know who you want to work with, you're not working a day in your life. You're having fun. They become your friends. They become your peeps, and you can just roll out. And by doing that, you can have that 8 or 9-figure exit. I mean, the sky's the limits.
Well, man, I really appreciate you coming on the show, and look forward to seeing your next act and next passion. And I'm sure we'll see it here inside of the EPI community. I appreciate it, Justin, man. Stick with us. We'll be right back.
Hey there, business owners. Are you ready for a game-changing opportunity? Introducing the 2023 National State of Owner Readiness Report. Over the past decade, this groundbreaking research has reshaped how we view business ownership and exit planning. This report isn't just another study. It's a deep dive into the evolution of business ownership. It shines a spotlight on the crucial intersection of business attractiveness and owner readiness, revealing the undeniable impact of preparation on achieving successful transitions. With younger generations taking the reins, exit planning is taking on a whole new perspective. Education and awareness about preparing for the future have never been more crucial. And with financial readiness leading the charge, there's a clear opportunity for growth and learning. But here's the kicker. The report shows a surge in exit planning education and understanding, yet many still lack formal transition teams, highlighting the essential role of comprehensive support. So who's got your back? Trusted advisors have evolved from CPAs to financial advisors, marking a decade of significant change in support networks. Ready to take the next step towards a successful exit? Dive into the Exit Planning Institute's 2023 National State of Owner Readiness Report and start shaping your legacy today. The future is knocking. Are you ready to answer? Discover your readiness level at 2023ownerreadiness.com and take the first step towards a successful and significant exit.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Exit Is Now podcast. Hanging out with my dad, Chris Snider, after one hell of a 2024 exit planning summit. You've probably seen in the background people cleaning up. Everybody is outside at the summit after party, cutting loose a little bit after a jam-packed 2.5 days. Just wanted to start the show by saying congratulations. I appreciate it. We're going to have the old cocktail at the end of the show here, and sort of a quick sip here. Certainly need that after 2.5 days. It's been an awesome show here in Marco Island, Florida. So also kind of like each year, Dan, it gets like bigger, bigger, yeah, bigger and bigger. But there's something special, I think, about this year's summit, just an energy that was here. But take me back, since you're the guy that founded really the first exit planning conference. I was laughing actually with many people here at the conference or the summit today, because it used to be called the Exit Planning Institute Annual International Conference. And at the time, I thought it was super cool, right? Like what you guys were doing. And you were a member, so we weren't owners of EPI yet, but you remember that it was passionate about bringing a community of advisors together and furthering the topics that we see today post-SEPA program. But talk about that first experience and then lead us into what you're feeling right now.
Can I share with everybody like how the initial conference came together?
Yeah, right.
So at the time I was a member of EPI. Didn't own EPI. I was a member. I was the 93rd member SEPA of EPI and got my credential in 2008. So fast forward, it's now 2010. And back then, you get your SEPA and you go back to your office and nobody ever talks to each other again. It's like, and I'm thinking to myself, how are we ever going to start a movement or have a community if we never talk after we go to SEPA? So I went to Pete and Rich and I said, look, there's two things I think we need to do. One, we need to have an annual conference where everybody gathers and we can do knowledge sharing and build relationships and stuff like that. And we need to have chapters across the country, right? And Rich said to me, those are great ideas. He said, would you be interested in being on the board? And I said, absolutely. I'd love to be on the board because I'm passionate about this. And Rich said, all right, you're on the board. And those are your first two objectives.
Launch chapters.
Launch a chapter and start a national conference. And I remember asking him, what's the budget? And he's like, there is no budget. So figure it out.
Yeah.
So that's really how the first conference really started. But I think for me, I don't know, it hit me even more so this particular summit, maybe because there were so many people here.
Yeah.
I think we had like 800.
Nearly 800 people.
The first one was 50 all in, including administrative.
In Fort Lauderdale, so kind of
special. You know how many sponsors we had?
Like maybe 10?
Zero sponsors. It was all funded by the SEPAs who, some of them were here today.
Yeah.
Sean Hudson was there. Craig West was there.
Yeah.
Peter Hickey was there. He was honored.
He was there.
Capizzi.
John Warlow.
In fact, what was really cool, because John and I talked about this.
Yeah.
John back then was doing something called sellability. So by the way, all those people we just mentioned were just all inducted into the circle of excellence. Thank you.
Of course.
But many of the people I just mentioned were inducted into that.
They're pioneers.
And John was one of those. Even though he's not a SEPA, he certainly is a pioneer. And he was the only software product around with something called sellability score. John and I laughed about it.
Yeah.
Because he had a relationship with Peter Chrisman. And Pete called me and said, you gotta see this product this guy's got. You gotta see this product, And he cut a deal on the side with Warlow where he was going to sell the sellability score to the attendees and they came to the conference. I think he was getting a cut of that.
Rev share.
But it was the only software solution tool, and it was just a little badge that you could put on your website that owners could click on and take like a quick summary, and that it was a lead generation tool. Now that we know that today is valuable. But, it's obviously much more robust than that.
Yeah.
But John was one of those early pioneers, and he was like, I don't think he was paid anything to sponsor. He connected with Chrisman and it was offering the SEPA as a tool to try to connect with business owners. I actually got one of my clients using sellability score. And that client was so important to me because I actually ended up investing and buying part of that business.
Absolutely.
Shortly after that. So, but what really impressed me is the energy more than anything else. There's so much energy in this place over the last 3 days, I probably have shook almost every person's hand that was here. That was a wild ride. And I just feel like we're still at the early stages of this, but we've really got some critical mass now where, I mean, this is a real deal. Like this is off and running, and it's a real deal. I look at the exhibit center.
Yeah, I was going to say, talk about the partners. For me, the partners, it's the largest of top 800 attendees is a record. Also, 43 partners is a record. And I think to your point about gaining momentum, it really shows that the exit planning profession is here and here to stay long term, because there's so many people that want to support the growth of their practices, or they want to team up with them along the way. Because I think one of the cool parts is a lot of people in the exhibit halls are just other advisors that we would call functional specialists, like a fractional CFO, that come alongside the exit planning team, not necessarily the core team. But there's a lot of just the support for the EPI community is wild. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I mean, 43 exhibitors. This huge room over there full of people, and you walk in there, and there's all these people communicating and learning and jiving back and forth. It's just, I think, it's proof. I mentioned to somebody I was talking to that, and I'm sure everybody can really appreciate all this, but this is what we're really witnessing is the manifestation of a vision.
Right, it's true.
This is something I thought about. When I became a SEPA, it's something that I certainly thought about when we acquired EPI together.
Yeah.
You're never sure, but you kind of have this vision. But the other thing I said to them is, those 4 words that I teach, in the goals and objectives section, right? Yeah. All goals start with a vision,
exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
But once you have the vision, what is the probability that the vision will ever get achieved, right? And it's those 4 words: belief, passion, opportunity, focus, right? You got to believe in that vision. You got to really believe it can happen.
Yeah.
You have to be passionate. You have to pour your heart and soul into it. You have to define the opportunity, right, and be clear about what you're trying to accomplish. And then you have to focus and you have to execute. And I think, a message I'd really like to get to everybody is like, you can all achieve your vision if you follow and do those 4 things. And this is, more proof that's possible.
Absolutely. The other thing that really sticks out for me too is all the way back when we opened the summit just a couple days ago. The other thing that really hit me too is it's not just the 800 attendees, the 43 partners, but this year at the Exit Planning Institute, we cut our team into 3 different groups. There's about 35 of us at EPI now. And each group is going to go to a conference each year. We pick 3 conferences out. Yeah. One of those 3 is our conference. So it was other kind of a cool thing to see, and maybe a little bit of a misjudgment on my part, because there are so many EPI employees here that our team literally stretched the entire stage when they got on. Yeah. And so, when I turned around and looking at all of that, can you imagine taking you back to 2011, the first summit? It was really like 1 or 2 people that were EPI.
There was one.
Yeah, one executive director.
I mean, you had Rich and Pete who owned it, but there was an executive director.
Yeah. How was that for you, though, when you were stood up there on stage with everybody and you looked down that line of people?
Yeah,
it's pretty crazy.
I was, just trying to screw around with you a little bit, because you said I'd like the EPI team to come on.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I'm part of the EPI team.
Yeah, that's true.
Too,
Yeah. That's a very proud moment.
I don't think you knew I was up there. You turned around and saw me.
Oh, whoa. Yeah.
And I was actually surprised at how many of our employees were here, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
Like, holy Christ.
Yeah.
There were a lot of people down here.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's part of what we talked about, is, they're going to be more effective at what they do if they can come here and really meet, our customers, our members, kind of get a sense of the vibe and the energy and what's going on and the excitement. That's going to make them, you can't do that from headquarters. You have to be in the field to
get there.
Yeah, I was telling somebody the story of, when I was at Sherwin-Williams and I was in charge of IT, and I used to make the IT people go down to the factory and work in the factory for 2 weeks.
Such a good story.
And I tell them, like, you're going to have to go down to the factory and make paint for 2 weeks. And they're like, oh, God, I don't want to do that. Like, I'm like, well, you have to, because they're your customers and you got to understand what they're doing. It's the same kind of thing. It's, we got to get our people out of the office, and they have to get out with the members and really understand what their life is like, and mingle with them and get to know them and build relationships with them. And that's going to make them just so much more effective at supporting them.
The one thing that I like, too, is a lot of them were in sessions as well. A lot of the EPI team that came here.
Yeah.
Again, remember, 2 teams. So one was working the summit, and one was here for what you were talking about. They're going to the actual paint manufacturing facility, right? They're coming to the conference to see how it's done.
Yeah.
But a lot of them were in sessions learning value acceleration. I think it was like another maybe sub-theme when we kept talking about my book one day will be this growing up through value acceleration.
Yeah,
I was like a SEPA in the back said, hey, we saw Paige go up on stage and talk about her journey with value acceleration. You've been talking about it at this conference too.
Yeah.
And now you have, 6 or 8 of your employees here, all here to kind of professionally develop and grow. And he said, how do you do that? And I was like, well, it's that. We're going to bring them to the paint shop. We're going to show them how the paint is made, get them out of the office. We're going to bring them here. And not only are we going to meet everybody and understand how our business runs, but they're actually going to be absorbing value acceleration methodology content. I think it's pretty cool.
So to that point, Matt actually came up to me when I was standing in the hallway, and I was saying, hey, it's a good experience for you to be with the members. He said, yeah, it was. But man, am I learning a lot? I'm sitting in sessions and I'm really learning a lot. And when I was running the case study today and I was walking through the crowd, I saw our own staff in there, mingling with the members, working on the case study. We're doing the work groups. So to your point, like, they were right in there with the members and learning this,
learning alongside them.
And it was awesome.
Yeah, I think that. So in part, when the question was asked for me, like, how does your team understand value acceleration? Is it because we teach it to them every day? We take the time. They're here.
Yeah, we live it.
Yeah, we live it.
I tell people too. You want a great example of value acceleration in action. Just look at EPI.
Yeah, right. I want you to be the case. Us to be the case study.
We practice what we preach.
Absolutely. So let's talk about as we conclude. Let's talk about the future, right? So.
Yeah.
I want to know future next year. We announced 2025 summit dates. We're sticking around Florida, particularly that Gulf Coast. Going now, we were here in Marco, south of Fort Myers. Now we're going north of Fort Myers to the Sunseeker Resort in Charlotte Harbor, Florida.
Great people,
and unbelievable people. It's the first time. So 2 big things: 20th anniversary of the Exit Planning Institute. EPI was founded in 2005. And it will also be the first time in our summit history that we've bought out an entire hotel. Yeah. So we have about, I think it has about 1,000 rooms, bought the whole thing out. And so we're their only we're their only event. And it'd be a really cool from a insider's look logistically. You could brand and have more experiences given you kind of own the place now. So when you're looking out to the future, the other thing that we talked a lot about this week is 2023 National State of Owner Readiness Survey. So when you look at the next 3 to 5 years, when you talk about visioning, what do you think? Where's this heading? Where's the whole profession going?
Well, as I said, I think we're very at the early stages of this still. I mean, there's 170,000 CFPs, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe 3,000 or 4,000 of them are SEPAs.
Yeah,
right. It's like, what is that? Like 3%?
Right.
Yeah. So there's a lot of people that are doing exit planning that have not been credentialized.
Right.
But I think what we're also seeing is that momentum. We really have a lot of momentum coming out of here. We've had it before we came in here, but now it's just accelerated. So. I want to see us at 40,000 members, is what I want to see.
40,000.
That's what I want to see, yeah. I think that's, if you look at the community of advisors and as the credential on the learning process and words begins to spread, I think, I'm not sure, we're not going to be there in 2025, obviously, but when we look out 5 years, I think we definitely could be there. I think the SEPA, I'm a little biased,
Of course.
but our mission is to make the SEPA the third most recognized credential in the world.
Right.
And we're very visionary, and we have a great community. We have a lot of momentum. All of those things, create the momentum you need to have that. We believe in it, right?
Yep.
We're passionate about it.
Yep.
We've defined the opportunity, and we're focused.
Yeah.
So why shouldn't we, be able
Achieve
to
those types
accomplish
of-
that kind of a vision?
that type
So
of community.
I think that's where we're going. I talked with people about closing the circle.
Yeah.
So I think that we've begun to really have, meaning you have owners on one side, you have advisors on the other. My vision was that we have this large group of very qualified advisors who can bring quality service and guidance to business owners to unlock their wealth, right?
Absolutely.
To create and unlock wealth. And then what I'd like to see us doing is working on the business owner side, right? So we have all these educated owners and all these educated advisors. We close that circle and we create a marketplace.
Exactly.
We've got a $14 trillion opportunity here.
Yep.
If you just look out the next 10 years. Right now, it's still 20-30% of business owners are successful. So what are you looking at? $3-4 trillion of wealth. If we could double that, and that's only taken us to 20 to 60 or 40 to 60%. But let's say we double that, we add another $4 trillion of wealth,
Right.
that doesn't exist today. Maybe we get that number to up to $6 trillion. So we really do harvest $10 trillion. Just think about the value that brings. We've created a market.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
I think that we've been saying this too. I think the way of the future is there's a SEPA on every owner's team, whether that's literally internal on their executive leadership team or external or both, external on their advisory team or both.
Yeah.
I think the way of the future is, and the way to significant companies, if you will, is to have a certified exit planning advisor, a part of that team, for almost the entirety of that owner's journey as a business owner. So, Dan, I really appreciate you coming on the show. I'm going to get you to go over to hang out with Mom and hang out with all of our SEPAs that are. Yeah, right. Yeah, hang out with all of our SEPAs and listen to the Smoky Blue Band. So thanks again, Dad. It's been an unbelievable summit. Cheers again.
Hey, Scott, you've done I just got to say, you and the team have done just a magnificent job on this.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that. We work real hard.
You really did a great job.
Thank you.
Thanks to everybody.
Thanks
for all your hard work.
I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Cheers. Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Exit Is Now podcast, broadcasting live here from the Exit Planning Summit. My next guest is Julie Keys, a mentor, a friend, an expert SEPA. In fact, is being inducted into the Exit Planning Hall of Fame here tomorrow morning at the summit on Monday morning, what we call our Exit Planning Circle of Excellence. So congratulations on that, and
Thank you.
I appreciate all the inspiration and impact that you've had on the industry. So talk to me about that. Like, you've been a SEPA now for how long? Do you know?
Since 2015.
2015. So nearly 10 years. So nearly 10 years, right? Isn't that crazy?
Where did the time go?
Where did the time go? And so, there's a lot of big things that have happened over the time of you being a certified exit planning advisor, but in particular, the last 2 years have actually been quite interesting. Last year, while we were at this very event, we launched the second edition of my dad's book, right? Another evolution of exit planning. And then this year, the big thing is the launch of the National State of Owner Readiness Survey and the results that we see there.
Yes.
And if you know Julie well, she's a content creator, author, podcaster. She's founded a chapter and led a chapter. She's on the EPI faculty. Education is absolutely key. So talk to me about how, in your nearly 10 years now of being a SEPA, how you've seen that change.
Yeah, we kind of talked about that at the Women's Symposium this morning, how, years ago, when you'd say to someone, well, I'm in the exit planning space, And they'd be like, because I know people said this to you too, right? They'd be like, well, do you help people exit the planet?
Yeah. Is this,
like,
can you find me a funeral director? Or
not
what?
that kind of exit.
Yeah.
So it's really evolved and changed. And now people, it's a thing. It's an industry. And people, like, even if they're not engaged in it as an advisor or as a business owner, they've heard of it, in business circles and in society. And so that's, I think, awareness.
It is.
Right?
It is.
Because if it's a thing, then maybe if it's something that I need to learn more about, like if for an advisor out there who's listening, then, and your owner clients are coming to you and wanting to know more about exit planning, that whole awareness thing, I think, is everything.
Yeah.
And,
well,
it's a great way to expand your
education has, I think, been
knowledge.
Key to helping owners. Just like, but if you
Absolutely.
think about it too, rewind the 10 years or so that you've been SEPA, there wasn't the access to what you have today. Like now you've written a book, you have a podcast, you have a chapter as a thought leadership platform. As owners, we're just more exposed to exit planning. It's more in our face. My dad was just talking about this too at the Summit 50, where like my book one day will be like growing up through value acceleration, because I don't know any other way to grow a business. So what do you, in your practice, between maybe the two generations, the baby boomers and like the Gen Xers, people in their 40s and 50s call it, do you find that they're more accepting, the younger folks are a little bit more accepting to the exit planning conversation, and the boomers are kind of still set in their way a little bit?
Yeah, maybe the boomers aren't quite as set in their way as they used to be, but
totally.
there's still plenty that needs to be done there, right? As you know, according to your national survey. But I would have to say that the Gen Xers are more open to working with advisors. They understand that exit planning is a thing. So when we talk about awareness, it's not just about advisors learning about the SEPA designation.
100%.
It's about business owners, regardless of their generation, understanding you got to plan with the end in mind.
Yeah. Right? Exactly.
You have to make it a significant business, and the only way to do that is to have a really good plan right out of the gate.
Absolutely right.
Yeah.
So I think that if you could educate, can you imagine like the 20-year-old or 25-year-old just starting their business, and they start it with the stuff that we know in mind, how impactful that will be for them, or even for our society, right? It's got to be crazy.
Huge. Oh, yeah.
So you're also known in our circle, the EPI community, as the collaborator. And so the collaboration is key, I think, to being a successful advisor, certainly to be a successful SEPA. So talk to me a little bit about collaboration, and maybe if you have, let's call it the top 2 things that you need to do to be a better connector of people and collaborator, in your opinion.
Yeah, well, for advisors, when it comes to collaboration and exit planning together, can't really do exit planning without collaborating.
Exactly.
And there's a good way to collaborate and a not so good way to collaborate.
Right.
Which a not so good way to collaborate would be to try to have all the answers yourself.
Right.
Not return phone calls, not be willing to work with people. And unfortunately, there's some advisors out there that are like that. And there's other advisors who just aren't aware of the impact that it can have, on your own practice and your client, right?
Yeah.
So you're forging relationships with other advisors who could become referral sources. You're helping the owner achieve a better outcome.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
And you're expanding your own horizons by being able to collaborate like that, because I always learn something.
Yeah, exactly. We learn from each other.
We talk about value and education and things like that, and learning is huge.
Yeah. I mean, it's a big part of this conference here today. We always say the summit is really about experiences, people, and innovation. And I think a lot of folks say, look, the partners in the exhibit hall are great, the content's great, but really where the magic happens is really out in the hallways as we start to collaborate and talk and begin to build our teams.
Exactly.
Pretty phenomenal experience, I think. So talk to me about the Twin Cities chapter. So a chapter that you founded. I think Mark this morning said he's going on his 4th year as the president, transitioning over to President-elect Todd, and the chapter's been in existence for 8 years. Can you talk to your experience as a chapter founder and president and how that has played into your career as well?
Yeah. Huge in terms of learning.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're so in, like, it was a great thing for me to do after I achieved my SEPA designation, because it kept me immersed in the process and the language and, learning about all the different disciplines and the things that they do. And so that whole thing, invaluable. And then building my network, meeting other advisors, learning more about different processes, because everybody's got a process. Building my network of referral partners, right?
Yeah.
And then becoming known in the Twin Cities as an exit planning advisor has been really important too. And people still think I run the chapter.
Yeah. Well, you're a big face of the chapter, you
They
know,
do.
and again,
Yeah.
being the collaborator, being on the faculty and all of that,
Yeah.
is a very visible SEPA for many, and I think
Sorry.
a mentor to a lot of SEPAs. I'm sure they still call you and ask you questions.
I'm fine with it too, because
Yeah.
I think that it's a great way to grow your practice and to learn more about exit planning, to get involved in a chapter. Even if you're not like a chapter president, you can still get on a steering committee
Absolutely.
and help make decisions. I mean, that's always a very important role to have. And I'm still on the steering
still-
committee.
yeah.
And honestly, I see what our next act is going to look like with our chapter.
Yeah.
And I want to be involved in that with Todd. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think the beauty of it, too, is that you don't even need to be a SEPA to be on the chapter. The president has to be a certified
Exactly.
exit planning advisor, but the president can surround himself with just great people.
Yes,
It's not
which I
SEPA
did.
or non-SEPA, right? It's not necessarily the designation, the credential, not necessarily right for everybody, but immersing themselves with like-minded advisors and learning more about exit planning and value acceleration, I think is key. But you've done a lot at that chapter. You did the first Business Owners Forum. You did the first, I think, regional survey. We did a second one in the state of Minnesota, which we saw actually very similar to the 2023 stuff. Definitely change and better. So it's been
Yes.
pretty significant. Last question I have for you is, as a more veteran SEPA now, talk to me about this summit. Isn't this wild? It's wild for me. I can
It's
remember.
amazing.
I go back a little even further than you to
Yeah.
when my dad hosted that first conference in 2011. I was a young man that just sold a landscaping company, had no idea about CPAs and wealth advisors, right? Hanging out with folks like you. And we had like a little 60-person conference in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. So now we're back in Florida on the other coast with now nearly 800. So what do you think? Isn't this pretty wild?
It's amazing, Scott.
When was your first conference? If it was 2015, did you come right away? Like 16, 17, you would have came?
Yeah,
Do you remember what it was? It was probably like Nashville or something.
Yeah, it was
Is
like
that-
200 people, I think.
Yeah, it was like a couple
Maybe
hundred people.
150 or 200. Yeah,
We
I don't
used
know.
to-
Nashville wasn't the first one, though, I don't think.
That you went to?
No, I think that was the second one.
Yeah,
but
man,
yeah, I
we
don't
have to
remember.
go back
Maybe it
through
was
time
Phoenix
and think
or-
about all these locations.
I know Scottsdale rings a bell.
Yeah, Scottsdale.
I
yeah.
think,
Okay,
yeah.
so yeah, it would have been. You're
Yeah.
right. It probably would have been Scottsdale, but was it the
Yeah.
one that switched from Florida because of the hurricanes in 2017?
That was
You remember
later.
that? That was later.
Yeah,
So,
I
all
don't
right,
know
so
how
I
you
think-
guys pivoted
yeah,
around
we
that.
pivoted.
I mean,
that was wild too.
That was amazing. That was
But
like
it's-
magic.
That is, yeah, it was. It was magic, but it
It
is
was
pretty
great.
wild to be at this event
This
and see
is
everybody.
awesome. I mean-
it's pretty amazing.
I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate
It's
that.
just
It's really
amazing.
cool to take the ride and the journey with folks like you, though, that have been super influential in our space. And it's like, you know, you had a couple hundred. I was laughing at the registration booth this morning because I literally used to have, this was probably before your time too, but I used to have just "Hello, my name is" tags.
Mm-hmm.
So you come to this nice professional conference, you just write your name on a tag and put it on you. Can you imagine? It's wild. So, Julie, I appreciate always hanging out. And you'll find Julie, I'm sure, in a few articles as we follow up from the induction of our first ever Circle of Exit Planning Circle of Excellence. So thanks, Julie, for hanging out, and
Thank you.
We'll see you soon. Stick with
Sounds
us.
good.
We have a couple more guests coming on shortly. Hey everybody, welcome to the Exit Is Now podcast with me, your host, Scott Snider. A couple of unique additions to the Exit Is Now podcast. We're broadcasting here live from the Exit Planning Summit. So a record-breaking event here in Marco Island, Florida. 800 attendees, 43 partners, 25 sessions, 4 main stages, a golf outing and workshops. I have the pleasure, though, to be sitting here today with one of our own from Team EPI, Scott Lang. Many of you might know Scott as he's certainly one of our top, if not the top performing business development manager that we have. Many people that are new to the exit planning community likely had talked to Scott on their way in. But one of the reasons Scott and his wife Mindy is here as well at the Exit Planning Summit with us today, because Scott won Employee of the Year at EPI. So we wanted to put together a series of awards that our employees could take part in. One of them being Employee of the Year, another one being Rookie of the Year. We have a lot of new faces at EPI year over year. And so we have a Rookie of the Year award among some other sales awards and core value awards. But one of the benefits, if you will, of winning that Employee of the Year award is to come hang out at the Exit Planning Summit. So Scott, welcome to the show, and thanks for coming out to Marco. And thanks for being kind to me on the golf course. So Scott's like a scratch golfer, let's say. I think he probably shot like a 75 yesterday. He bared with me as I I think I lost like 2 cases of balls, but nonetheless, it was a good event. So I want to talk to you about culture at EPI. I was just actually down in the Summit 50 lunch with my dad, a VIP experience that we have here at EPI, talking about the importance of social capital and culture. So you've been here how long at EPI?
Yeah, just a few weeks ago. It was 5 years.
5 years ago, and I think time flies, man. So talk to me about your experience at EPI and kind of the impacts on our culture, meaning that you saw us then through COVID as well. So you came in what, 2019, I guess that is?
2019.
Yeah, 2019.
Yeah.
So the business has changed quite a bit. Kind of talk to that experience.
Yeah, I mean, the business has changed quite a bit. EPI has changed quite a bit. I think we as a team have been through a lot, right?
Yeah.
And, sitting here today and seeing 800 people come through this conference is pretty wild. It's
pretty wild,
This beautiful resort that we're at. And, EPI is unique. I think our culture is probably one of a kind, and it's probably hard to duplicate. But I think that the processes can be duplicated. That the people make the business, and we're surrounded by people that really focus on self, right? Like they're not selfish, but everybody that we work with has a certain amount of pride, right? And I think we all hold each other accountable, and we also have some pretty close friendships at EPI too, which is unique.
It's like a family.
It is like a family. I saw your mom this morning and she gave me a hug.
Yeah, right.
So, it's pretty unique, and I think the core of us that have been here and welcoming these new folks that just showed up. 4 or 5 people just got here from back in Cleveland, and it's a pretty fun experience. Yeah.
So talk about that a little bit. So I had the privilege as well to hang out with you at the EOS conference. So what we did this year in terms of our professional development is we took Team EPI, and basically if you were there for a year or more, we basically cut you into 3 different groups, and each group gets to attend a conference this year. So you were actually a part of the EOS group. Talk to me about professional development, purposeful growth, and some of the stuff. So I'd like to think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'd like to think that that's also a unique thing. I think we spend a lot of time and money on helping our people grow. And so talk to me about what you think about that.
Yeah, no, it's super unique. People that work here should be really grateful for that, because I think, not a lot of owners are going to invest their own money just to develop really young folks. I'm the oldest guy here. I'm 45. And we got an office full of young people. And that doesn't mean they're not talented, right? But they just haven't been exposed to a lot of the stuff that we have.
A lot of people started their career at EPI.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean, there's a lot of folks in their 20s. Which is exciting, right? It helps us kind of grow, and we embrace, I think, new ideas, and a lot of that comes from professional development. I mean, you and your dad putting the investment in us, ultimately in EPI it's paying dividends right now. I think.
So when you talk about being more veteran, just a question that popped for me was, do you find yourself mentoring a lot as well? Because I'm close. Me and you are like the 2 old guys of the group, but I've always, for lack of better words, really, Scott, I've always kind of looked up to you as well as a mentor for me. And so, do you find, and you were here when there was 10 people, and now there's 35 people.
I think I was employee number 8. Maybe?
Number 8,
something like that,
So you've seen rapid growth in your 5 years. So as a more veteran guy, both in terms of experience in the market and kind of a more veteran guy at EPI. Do you find a lot of our younger employees, does that give any sense of burden for you? Or
no,
what's that feel like?
It keeps us young, right? I mean, the sales team has gone from Jesse and I to 6 deep now. We're hiring another SDR. And everybody on our team is really aggressive and really competitive. And we seem to hire healthy people too, right? So it kind of breeds through us, which pushes me. I come into work and I got Big Joe and Sean,
you got people
and Ron,
that work out like crazy.
And even Colin. I mean, it's just a healthy environment.
It is. That is interesting to say. It kind of keeps you young and fresh.
Yeah.
Well, it kind of keeps you on your toes too, because these young folks that are on your team are always looking to beat the big guy out, right?
Yeah.
So I would assume it does keep you kind of fresh thoughts, fresh ideas.
It is. There's a lot of energy.
A lot of energy.
Yeah.
So talk to me about how the process has changed in selling SEPA. So, you were there in 2019 selling certified exit planning advisors into in-person programming only. Bigger price tag, more of a burden. I was just talking to our chapter president in Philadelphia, Matt, and he was talking to me, are we going to bring back an in-person program? And I said, I don't know yet. I don't know if the appetite's there, because the price tag is now about half and then you don't have all the stuff that comes after that, all the travel and expenses that come after it. But has your conversation changed? Also, I think as the designation has matured, has that changed as well?
Yes and no. I think it depends on who you're talking to, right? I mean, I think we've become a company and a designation that people are just coming to get, and there's not much of a conversation being had, right? People know who we are. The brand is kind of speaking for itself. So the conversation has changed. I mean, we've made the program pretty flexible. You can dive in pretty deep with us, after the fact. But getting the designation is a fairly quick process.
That's true.
So I mean, like generally speaking, I think it's become a little bit more transactional. And a lot of the consulting and helping of the advisors happens on the account management side once they come through the program. So. I think that's going to continue too. Like I don't see the growth of this
I don't
space
think it's slowing down
anytime soon.
They were talking about that at our chapter president circle meeting too, that it hasn't really slowed, right? Is that they're asking me to support Jenna, right? Our community coordinator here at EPI, as our chapters grow, both individually, right? More attendance and more awareness, and then as we expand our chapter network as well. I mean, I don't think it's slowing down at all.
It's not slowing down. I think we're going to see growth from some other advisor types. We've seen kind of an explosion within the financial services, the wealth managers, the financial advisors, but more folks are coming,
So last question that I have for you, and I mean, put you on the spot. If you know my show well, we don't rehearse anything, so Scott, I'm just pinging with questions that I find interesting. But again, more as a veteran guy and somebody that just won Employee of the Year, for everybody listening to the show that is in a rapidly growing business, or maybe even some of our own people, what's some words of wisdom? How did you get to be where you're at?
I mean, our team, we lean on each other pretty heavily.
So open to like collaboration and teamwork.
I mean, you got to lean on folks. We set some pretty lofty goals, and we don't reach them by ourselves. So you got to hire the right people, and you got to lean on them. And we've been blessed. I mean, we've had a little bit of turnover, but not much. EPI has done well as far as holding this team together, and I think that's where our success comes from.
That's fair. Well, we're going to take a quick break, get on some more guests here at the Exit Planning Summit. Scott, appreciate you spending a few minutes with me. I'll let you and Mindy get back to the beach. All right, we'll talk again. Thanks.